We're recording.
We're recording.
Good morning, sis.
Good morning.
Hi,
Good
family.
morning, family. Hi.
This morning's lesson, we're on lesson 167 entitled, There is One Life, and That I Share with God.
Okay, before Sis begins to read, I would just like to give upfront a warning
What's that, sis?
because this is a very similar G Force lesson, God Force lesson, that will require most of us to buckle up and really secure our seatbelts with this one, right? Because this particular lesson is almost a review or a deepening of the other lesson that you may have freaked out about, which is
The
lesson
ego.
163,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Which is there is no death. The
yeah.
Son of God is free. Remember that doozy?
hmm
That was a whopper.
That was a whopper. Here's another whopper. So put on your snorkel tanks and your fins and your masks because we're going to take a deep dive. We don't hold any punches on here. We're just we're going to look at this and give it exactly as he intends it that it be received.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing to align our intent,
Hmm.
all of us, you
Yeah.
know, all of us, because now we've become quite a Course in Miracles family here together, all doing the lessons together.
Yes.
And it's just beautiful to take a moment to join and to set the intent that we're going to be open-minded and open-hearted with this.
That's right. Ego is not welcome here.
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
All
Deep
right.
breath. Deep breath. And you said a snorkel, and no snorkel.
We're going
I
down.
think we might need some, yeah. Okay, let's
Okay.
go.
There are not different kinds of life, for life is like the truth. It does not have degrees. Life is the one condition in which all that God created share. Like all his thoughts, it has no opposite. Here we go. There is no death because what God created shares his life. There is no death because an opposite to God does not exist. There is no death because the Father and the Son are one.
So, sis,
Mm-hmm.
where he says here in the beginning of this paragraph, he says, there are not different kinds of life, for life is like the truth. It does not have degrees. Can we just again talk about that?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what Jesus revealed to me was that, of course, he says it in the Course many times, but most of us, through the ego filter, tend to take it as metaphor and not literal, is that life, of course, life is like love
Mm-hmm.
and truth.
Mm-hmm.
There are no degrees of love.
Right.
There are no degrees of truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there are no degrees of life. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's a big one to take in.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
So life, if God is life, God is truth, God is love. And so in his creation, all of his creation shares this one life, one truth, one love. And so this idea that we can be in God experiencing life as God or life with God, and also have another life where we seem to find ourselves in the gap as a mythical me, as with an ego thought system, having experiences that God is not part of or even aware of. that's what he's pointing to, right? That you can't have different kinds of life, one spiritual, one material, one immortal, one mortal.
Beautiful, thank you. And just as an addition to what was revealed to me is going to the opposite as far as fear is concerned, which is the basis of the ego thought system, fear.
Mm-hmm.
There are no degrees of fear either. So there are no degrees of error in the gap.
Mm-hmm.
The gap diagram, no degrees of error. Right.
It's all the same.
That's it. And so, yeah. And so all fear is fear, which is a complete block to love and therefore a complete block to life. So when we're distracted in any moment by fear, that's a 100% block against life and a calling for death as a result. Not to frighten anybody, but it's great motivation for us to undo the ego thought system, isn't it? Mythical me.
Definitely.
And all of its idols, right?
Right.
Yeah. And every fear we have is actually a prayer that we're asking for.
Mm-hmm.
If we believe that fear must be because through the ego we desire it. Yeah. So in that desire, because we share 100% of the power of God,
mm-hmm.
we can manifest whatever we want to. And if we want to manifest through the ego a dream of fear, we can do it.
Yeah. And the main thing is that it never became truth. It was always just the dream.
An illusion. It's just a dream.
Yeah. So you could just write fear across this, and all of it is the same. No hierarchy in there. It's all just fearful thoughts. And the point of it all is that it keeps your mind split so that you don't remember that this is your reality. And this is where eternal life is. This is where the one life and the one truth and the one love is in God, and where we have our right mind, and it's our home. So, it's not just even, you said that fear is a call for death, and I'm seeing, and maybe it's premature, but we're here to really run this thing home. But we talked about the last time we spoke about death, that the idea of, if the idea was, I wonder what it would be like to be separate from God. It's the same thing as saying, I wonder what it would be like to be separate from life, because God is life. So this whole thing is, I wonder what it'd be like to be the opposite of life. Well, see the tombstone, everything that's arising in here is a form of death. That's
even the positives, right? Even the positives.
The good serves death, the negative serves death. Mythical me is the central idol of the god of death. This is all this wish for, where there's no life here, there's no truth here, there's no real love here. God is absent, and I have stolen his throne as a mythical me, and I'm having a ball, creating apart from God, and yet none of it's true. Nothing can ever be real or attained here. And the end of the one that thought it did anything is death. So we live a little while in the dream of death only to finally die, but it was always death to begin with, because it is the opposite of, it's the idea, the thought of separation from life.
So thank God we have forgiveness.
Yes.
Because forgiveness undoes all of that.
That's right.
Yes. And we also have holy relationships.
That's right.
And which is the undoing of the greatest of all death magnets, the special relationship.
That's right. Yes.
It's beautiful. Okay.
All right, here we go. So the last sentence, there is no death because the Father and Son are one. So what you are in truth is one with God, one with eternal life. So that's our natural state. In this world, there appears to be a state that is life's opposite. You call it death. Yet we have learned that the idea of death takes many forms. It is the one idea which underlies all feelings that are not supremely happy. It is the alarm to which you give response of any kind that is not perfect joy. All sorrow, loss, anxiety, and suffering and pain, even a little sigh of weariness, a slight discomfort, or the merest frown acknowledge death and thus deny you live.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting because I frowned a lot yesterday. Um, and what else? What
So,
else? Let's have a look at this. I'm going to have a good laugh. All right. Anxiety? No, I don't really suffer from anxiety anymore. Physical pain? Shit, yes. Okay. Yes. There. Okay, is a sign of death, right? If I believe physical pain,
mm-hmm,
that's a sign that I am praying for death,
mm-hmm.
right?
Well, that you're acknowledging that, yeah, you live in the realm of death where life is absent or where God is absent. So, all
Mhm.
of these things about emotional distress or unhappiness, right? That's why does that seem to occur to us? Oh, because I'm looking out at my world and I'm seeing things. I'm looking at illusions and I've made them real. I've given them power over me, and I've decided that, that they can take away my happiness and my security and peace. So those are all wishes for the opposite of life, that we're living in the gap. That's valuing this.
Mhm. And I think, going from my own experience here and watching the experience of others through the TTC classes, etc., as well over the years, um, I'm noticing that as we come into alignment
Mm-hmm.
with our authentic self, we're no longer, functioning from the ego. We're no longer communicating with ourself and others from a sense of self-betrayal,
Right. Yes.
self-abandonment. When we're coming into our truth and we're really communicating authentically,
Yes.
the ego's pull, death magnet,
Mm-hmm.
starts to dissipate.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Right.
needed to mention that.
Yeah. Well, that's when we get on the spiritual path and start recognizing that, all of this is in my mind and that I can forgive it, and this isn't our natural state. We do have a choice to choose again for the truth. Yeah.
Thank you, sis.
I'm sure he'll get into that, hopefully, because I think a lot of people would be very depressed. Okay. You think that death is of the body. Listen to this. Yet it is but an idea, irrelevant to what is seen as physical. A thought is in the mind. It can be then applied where mind directs it, but its origin is where it must be changed if change occurs. Ideas leave not their source. The emphasis this course has placed on that idea is due to its centrality in our attempts to change your mind about yourself. It is the reason you can heal. It is the cause of healing. It is why you cannot die. Its truth established you as one with God. Ooh. So that's a big idea to take in, and a big truth to understand, that there's only the mind of God. Only God's ideas are the truth. And because we are ideas in the mind of God, we have never left. That's what keeps us safely at home in God, because we're ideas in His mind.
Mm.
And so everything, our thought in the ego realm of separation, in the gap, everything here are thoughts in our mind, right? And so this thought of death originates in our mind. There was a thought, oh, an opposite to God, an opposite to life, and we call that death, and it hasn't even been projected anywhere yet, right? But then we project that out onto bodies and we see them age and decay and die. But the thought, the origination of death, is still in our mind, where it can be healed.
Healed.
So this overcoming of death isn't such a, I can't believe they're talking about the literal undoing of death. We're not talking about, corpses, like real corpses. We're saying real corpses are projections from our mind where the thought of death resides. We still value this thought, but it's still a thought. And
So
thoughts
the thoughts are caused, right?
Yes.
Thoughts the cause, and the effect is the illusion of corpses.
That's right.
Don't you love that word?
Yeah. Stinky body corpses. Yes.
Yes, yes.
So this is the key. Death is the thought that you are separate from your creator.
Okay. So, yeah, with that thought comes guilt. Mm-hmm. That's what needs to be undone. And it's that thought. As soon as we believe that we're apart from our creator, we're going to be terrified. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
So death is the thought. Death is just a thought. It's the thought of separation. It is the belief conditions change, emotions alternate because of causes you cannot control, you did not make, and you can never change.
So we're victims to it, right, sis?
Totally.
We believe we're victims to it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. And remember, this dream that we're having, the central thought is death, and everything that arises within it, bodies and stories and then emotions and problems, those are all lesser forms of the idea of death. Mm-hmm. So that's where things change in this dream, right? And our emotions fluctuate. We're all over the board, right? And we're victims. Oh my gosh, the world and pandemics, and I'm powerless to do it. It is the fixed belief ideas can leave their source. So what was in the mind is projected out there and take on qualities that the source does not contain, becoming different from their own origin, apart from it in kind as well as distance, time, and form. Okay. Death cannot come from life. Ideas remain united to their source. We are united to life. They can extend all that their source contains. In that, they can go far beyond themselves. But they cannot give birth to what was never given them. As they are made, so will their making be. As they were born, so will they then give birth. And where they came from, there will they return. Okay, so if God is life and we are ideas in the mind of life, mm-hmm. then our reality is that we extend only more life, receiving our power from our mind with God who is life coming through our mind, and we extend co-creators spiritual life. Our formations, our creations are spiritual, just like God, just like we are. So we're taking from God and we are producing like God, from God, God substance. We can't change that. We can never introduce an opposite to God. We can't introduce things that are unlike or a different substance than God.
You mean the gap?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if we can't do that, mm-hmm. then that means the gap's unreal.
That's right. This has never, that's why God said, hey, you guys, this idea of, separation, it's not that he was being a hard ass. It's that it's inconceivable, because if God is infinite all, if this is the only truth of reality,
and his son, this is the only truth of us, right?
That's right.
That's it.
Where would you go? Where can you find, yourself outside the allness of God? Where are you going to find matter in spirit or death in life?
So we can't, the truth of us can never make a mistake, nor has it ever made a mistake. I mean, the idea of sin, which is the core of the ego thought system, along with death, mm-hmm. From which all illusions stem, that's just a mistake.
It was a thought.
It was a thought
Of death. It
apart from God. So it's not something that is in God that we get to love and nurture.
No.
Because there's, again, I'm sorry I'm bringing this up, but there's a lot of confusion out there with the spiritual smorgasbord that's available for people. They go, just love the ego.
That's right.
Just love the gap.
Yes.
And explore it and have fun. Yes, it'll hurt like hell, but just have fun. It's all innocent.
Right.
Yes, it's innocent, right? But where do we make the positive separation at that point?
Yeah.
How are we going to wake up?
Right. How are you ever going to wake up while you still find something in here that if you value any of it, right, your mind is split because you can't have a little of this and a little of that. So while there's still a payoff here, you get all of it. A little payoff in this means the body's going to die and reincarnate. Okay? So I want off of this hamster wheel. And I need to clear, it's really easy to clear the negatives. I don't want death. I don't want sickness. I don't want, how about that special relationship? How about, a pretty body or a fat bank account or what are the things in your gap that still call to you? Those have to go. We need to find our pluses from our experience in God. Those don't change and vary, can't be taken from you, will never leave you or forsake you. This is consistent good and a joy and a peace that can't be taken. So while we're still trying to find cheap substitutes, death is going to be ego's law that governs you while you're this guy or girl, right?
Yeah. Or both. These days you can be anything.
That's right. Anything you want.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Okay.
So,
and for those who are just coming into this lesson without having watched lesson number 1, the gap diagram is in the description box, show more box, and you can print it out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
It's good to have just as a handy reminder.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's just saying you can do, and he's really pointing that we are infinite co-creators with God. We have no idea that the ego thought system cannot fathom what the word infinite, eternal means. But he's saying that when we are at home in God, that is what we are, right? It's and that, so there's so much we can do, but the one thing that we cannot do is do something apart or opposite to what God is doing. Okay?
But we just dream it.
Yeah. This insistence of having a will apart from God has never occurred. It's only happening in the dream. And this is where we dream that I'm doing something apart from God. But apparently, because if I'm doing anything apart from life, sorry, the opposite of life is death. That's just the way it works, guys. Death cannot come from life. Ideas remain united to their source. That's right. I read this. They can extend all that their source contains, in that they can go far beyond themselves, but they cannot give birth to what has never been given them. As they are made, so will their making be, like producing like, and as they were born from God in spirit, so will they then give birth, more of God, more spirit. And where they came from, there will they return. Okay?
Good, sis. I'm glad you read that paragraph twice, because we needed to hear it twice.
Yes. The mind can think it sleeps, but that is all. It cannot change what is its waking state. It cannot make a body, nor abide within a body.
Oh, you want to repeat that one?
Yes. The mind cannot make a body. Where's it going to come up with brains and blood and guts and all? It cannot make a body, nor abide within a body. What is alien to the mind does not exist because it has no source.
Oop, stop there. Stop there.
Yes.
I'm not sure where you're at, but I just heard that. Oh, I see. Yeah. Paragraph 6. Yeah. What is alien to the mind does not exist. So everything in the gap.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. And the mythical body in the gap as well.
That's right.
Okay. So what is alien to the mind, meaning the mind we share with God, does not exist, because I want to unpack that next statement.
Because it has no source. God is the only cause and the only creator, and only what God created has ever been true or ever will be true. Here is truth. The mind the mind fell asleep upon the idea of, I wonder what it would be like. And since God said no, there seemed to be a dream where this came up, but never did it ever become true. None of it.
That is why Jesus introduced the first miracle principle.
There is no order of difficulty in them.
No, because everything that they erase or heal, whatever you want to call it, is equally untrue. Everything.
Yes. Right. To make one harder than the other would try and say that there's a little bit more truth in this illusion than this another illusion, right? Illusions are illusions, zero value.
And that's why the miracle can heal them equally.
That's right.
And if we're not too terrified, can heal them immediately.
Instantaneously, because illusions don't have the ability to stay where the mind recognizes them as the illusion they are. This is the mind that's returned back to its whole state. No split, no ego, no thought of separation. When the mind lets go through total forgiveness of the thought of separation, that's the perfect atonement. That's walking as Jesus did.
Thank you. Sis, can you open the gap up for a second and hold it up? Close. There are a few negatives in there. All right. There's like special relationship conflicts. There's pain, illness, suffering, and a few others that, depict adversity here in the dream. Yeah. Now, this point I need to make very clear, if you could help me, is that everything in the gap that we're afraid of, yeah, everything in the gap that we try to defend ourselves from,
right,
yeah,
yes,
everything has no source.
No.
Okay, so this is the point I want to make, is that if we're afraid of something, whatever it might be, it actually has no source. Now, if it has no source, in other words, it has no cause, how in the world could it have an effect?
Thank you.
So the ego is not a cause, because there is no cause apart from God.
That's right.
The sense of liberation, when we allow that, to fall in, when we receive that, when we accept that, we can then say with Holy Spirit, no to any appearance of adversity.
That's right.
Because we realize we give Holy Spirit permission to join with him to take it all away. So through the ego senses, we seem to see signs of separation, adversity, pain, illness, whatever, conflict. When we know that the ego has no cause, we also know it can have no effects. Right. And that, of course, accelerates our trust to accept the miracle.
That's right, because while you're still making it real, we can't accept the miracle.
No, because in place of it, we've given our allegiance to the ego. Yes. And we've said it's a cause. And so therefore, we suffer from its effects and we feel victimized by it.
In a dream. Never
And it's
happened.
total bullshit, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Thanks, sis.
Thank
Okay.
you, sis.
All right. So, for mind creates all things that are and cannot give them attributes it lacks, nor change its own eternal mindful state. It cannot make the physical. What seems to die is but the sign of a mind asleep. So there's no matter, no physical world. Everything's arising in mind. And if we're seeing images of the gap, all that means is that there's a mind asleep that's calling to be wakened, because there is no death in God. So if death is real for anything, that's just the sign of the sleeping mind. Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing too is
Yeah.
I was so astounded about 20 odd years ago. I don't know when it was, probably 15 years ago or whatever, when I was reading uh, an article about quantum physics. Not that I know anything about it.
Wow.
Zero. All right, no.
Huh?
But the part that I got from it that I could understand, that just was like hit the bullseye for me, was when I saw a statement saying that all matter is 99, it's been proven to be 99.9% empty space.
That's it.
And that's quantum physics.
Yes. Yes.
So even in science,
Mm-hmm.
they're proving rapidly
Rapid.
that it has no substance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they pull up short. It's like they have to make this admission that everything is thought, and so, well, if that's true, then what's possible? And it's like almost like all the scientists come up to that point and no further. They don't link it to God. They don't link it to healing. Quantum physics is proving what we're saying, and yet those scientists aren't willing to like put themselves out, in front of the world and take a stand for what we're all already recognizing or know or have proven to ourselves.
Right. So,
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe what we could do, you and I,
Yeah.
is amass our savings, not that we have any, and buy, quite a few boxes of A Course in Miracles,
Yes.
and send each one of these quantum physicists a copy of A Course in Miracles with love.
With a bookmark on lesson 167. Yeah. Yeah. Oh
You
my
never
God.
know, we might end up having a quantum physicist join us in these lessons.
I'll bet we have somebody I bet a bunch of us are already really interested in it.
Okay.
I had a really powerful teacher in Christian Science that said religions aren't going to prove the truth of what we're saying. Quantum physics is going to prove the truth of what we've been saying, what Mrs. Eddy said back in the 1800s, and they all said she was a freak. So, yeah, there is no matter.
Wow.
That was big back in those days, and it's still not even accepted now. Yeah, okay. It cannot make the physical. What seems to die is but the sign of a mind asleep. The opposite of life can only be another form of life. The opposite of life can only be another, right? Because life has no opposite. As such, it can be reconciled with what created it because it is not opposite in truth. Its form may change, it may appear to be what it is not, yet mind is mind, awake or sleeping. It is not its opposite in anything created, nor in what it seems to make when it believes it sleeps.
Because mind is unified, right?
Right. I'm just asking for a second.
And nothing it makes or projects in its sleep can possibly threaten what the truth is.
Right.
Which is the mind is unified. of God.
Yeah. And I think, it's good to come back and recognize that the one that's sleeping, there's still life there. Even, it's dreaming the dream, but it was life that gave the dreamer the ability to dream the dream. We take the power of our mind from God's mind to dream the dream. Now, no truth goes into the dream, but just to remember that the very source, we're always at home in God and have the power of life, mind, truth, available to us, and we've just distorted that, right, through a
So we've
dream.
used the power of God to
Yes,
dream a dream
that's it.
that appears to be opposite,
Yes.
right, of God.
Mhm. Okay. God creates only mind awake. He does not sleep, and his creations cannot share what he gives not, nor make conditions which he does not share with them. The thought of death is not the opposite to thoughts of life. Forever unopposed by opposites of any kind, the thoughts of God remain forever changeless, with the power to extend forever changelessly, but yet within themselves, for they are everywhere. Oh, that's a really big one. So this is just coming back. This is the absolute of the absolute. This is just declaring the nature of God, God's mind, all creation in the mind of God, all mind awake like God's mind. Like the son of the Christ, the Son of God, is at home in God, sharing the mind of God, co-creating with God. And the only way that this ever seemed to occur is that uh, upon that tiny mad idea, in an insistence to try a will apart from God, part of that mind seemed to dream a dream. But in truth, there is no ever an opposite to God, mind, life. Okay. And so nothing, this gap has never become true, is what he's really hammering home here. What seems to be the opposite of life is merely sleeping. When the mind elects to be what it is not, and to assume an alien power which it does not have, a foreign state it cannot enter, or a false condition not within its source, it merely seems to go to sleep a while. It dreams of time, an interval in which what seems to happen never has occurred. The changes wrought are substanceless, and all events are nowhere. When the mind awakes, it but continues as it always was.
So he's talking about, I mean, this is mind blowing. He's really talking about the whole dream of time.
Yeah.
Since the Big Bang,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
And because, so yeah, that's big, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah.
So the dream of life, which is circumscribed or is imprisoned by the dream of death,
yeah,
are really no different, because they're dream. It's part of the dream we're having apart from God.
yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. And I think it's helpful. It's like here the mind is electing to be what it is not. It's the assumption of an alien power which it does not have. This is a foreign state in which we cannot enter in truth. It's a false condition not within God.
Yeah.
This is what happens when we seem to sleep, go to sleep a while. It's the dream of time, an interval in which what seems to happen never has occurred. Nothing going on here never has occurred. The changes within it are without substance, and all events that ever seem to occur, meaning even our birth and so-called death, are nowhere.
That says it all.
And when the mind awakes, it continues as it always was, at home, in God, with knowledge, knowing as God is causing us to know, being about our Father's business. Okay? So nothing and nowhere, never, and always here now.
Right. And that's why it's crucial if we really want to awaken,
From it.
not just in the dream, but to awaken from the dream
Yeah,
altogether. It's crucial to make that positive separation.
that's right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do that. They just make this really, really nice. And that's okay. We're free will to do as we want, but to recognize that even the good, this is
A happy dream, you mean, like an ego dream?
a happy ego dream
Yeah.
are for those who have not experienced holy relationship.
Mhm.
Sorry, that's a pretty bold statement, but it's true, because you're going to think that this is the best that you're going to get as a mythical me. And when you recognize what you can have through holy relationship and the holy instant, and being the living demonstration, you're going to be feeling your connection, this union with God, while still in a body. And you won't want anything that this before you thought offered you something. You'll drop it. You'll only want the experience of the real with a capital R, which makes even the best of the best as mythical me like nothing. It's
And
intolerable.
that, sis, thank you, because what you're alluding to here is the real world dream,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the final dream we have, right?
Yes.
And the bridge that takes us to that dream is the holy relationship.
Yes. Yes. It gives us the state of a feeling state of heaven while still in the body, and even that's not it, but it's pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the last step, true perception before God takes,
Final
or
step.
he takes a final step. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let us today be children of the truth and not deny our holy heritage. Our life is not as we imagine it. Who changes life because he shuts his eyes? Or makes himself what he is not because he sleeps and sees and dreams an opposite to what he is? We will not ask for death in any form today, nor will we let imagined opposites to life abide even an instant where the thought of life eternal has been set by God himself. His holy home we strive to keep today as he established it, and wills it be forever and forever. He is Lord of what we think today, and from his thoughts, which have no opposite, we understand there is one life, and that we share with him, with all creation, with their thoughts as well, whom he created in a unity of life which cannot separate in death and leave the source of life from where it came. We share our life because we have one source, a source from which perfection comes to us, remaining always in the holy minds which he created perfect.
Mm.
As we were, so are we now and will forever be. A sleeping mind must waken as it sees its own perfection mirroring the Lord of life so perfectly it fades into what is reflected there. And now it is no more a mere reflection. It becomes the thing reflected and the light which made reflection possible. Ooh.
Mm.
No vision now is needed, for the wakened mind is one that knows its source, its self, its holiness.
Getting glimmers of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Regular ones.
That's right. We'll want to close this illusory gap and rejoin our mind as it is more and more. Like the more we get these glimpses, it's a quickening. It's the tractor beam pull, I call it. Okay. There is one life, and that I share with God. To know God is to know yourself. The more we know of God, the more we know of reality and life with a capital L that has no opposite. Death is simply a thought that life has an opposite. Thank God, life eternal has no opposite. That's why there is no death. Can we do this? Yes, we can.
We're
already
doing this.
done.
Did you say we're doing this weekend?
Yes, we're going to overcome death this weekend. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, beautiful family.
Yeah.
Thank you, sis.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah, and there's a blog. There's
Oh,
a
thank
blog.
God you remembered. There is.
It's called "Why Jesus' Teachings is the quickest of all spiritual paths." And because of when it came through Nouk, it was pre audio recording days, so it's in the written format, but it's worth a read, and it will be down in the notes, in the show more or description box right there at the top. So it's a big one, but please, for those who want the deeper dive and to really get this, have a study.
Thank you, sis.
Thanks. All right, thanks, family. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Take care.
Love you. Bye.